Oh, come on, Chris Bumstead. It is time for your annual beating. Hello, everyone. Mark here. Mark's Max Muscle. And Arnold Schwarzenegger would be correct. Generally, after the Mr. Olympia event, and after Chris Bumstead defends his title, I do a comparison between him and Arnold using various different versions of the Austrian oak. And considering 1975, Arnold retired, got on the mic, and he retired from bodybuilding after winning 6 titles. Thought it was pretty fitting to use that version, considering Bumstead just did the exact same darn thing. This was his 6th Olympia title, and then he got on the mic, and he retired. The only difference was Bob Ciccarello wasn't there back in 75. I think Rich Park was there, though, so just as good. I believe that Bumstead ultimately is going to have an edge in the lower half, maybe using the 75 or even 73 for Arnold. Those quads were pretty decent, but here in 75, he just lost all of his leg size. I think he was going to retire, or actually he did retire after 74, supposedly, but he came back. Minus the leg size. Now, upper body, hey, I gotta call it like it is, guys. Arnold is making Chris Bumstead look like he has spaghetti arms, just like Matty Ferrigno accused Arnold of having, which he most certainly did not. Now, in terms of the midsections, Chris Bumstead, he is unreal. This would be like Arnold having to deal with Frank Zane back then with the vacuums. Of course, Frank Zane really phoned it in 1975. Didn't you, Frank? Here is the... not turn to the side. I was all warmed up to say turn to the side, but I didn't. It's the front lat spread. And look at the quad sweeps on this bum man. Keep in mind, guys, whenever I do, say, a 70s versus 2020, obviously, they're not going to have the size of the legs, the criteria. I mean, they need these quads now. They just... that wasn't the meter stick back then. And if it were, trust me, Arnold would have those legs. But the training, the know-how, you can't compare. You can't compare. But these two dudes, structurally speaking, the upper bodies, very similar. Arnold had some fantastic pecs in the front lat spread. Ditto with Chris Bumstead. Both gentlemen have an awesome midsection. And both gentlemen displaying the lats. So less of a contest and more of just comparing these two guys to see how similar Chris Bumstead was to the best bodybuilder in 1975, or how close Arnold was to the men's classic physique division champion today. Turn to the side. Interesting. Obviously the legs are going to be different. Obviously the glutes, they didn't have glutes back then. Going to be different. Training, know-how, obviously. But structurally speaking, Arnold would look a lot like Bumstead. If he was around now, if he did compete in the men's classic, obviously he'd be an open, I think. But look at the far pack, look at the close pack. They're mirror images of each other. They're twins. Not like Danny DeVito and Arnold, but that was a good movie. You guys remember that movie? You guys see the size of the bag of chips that Danny DeVito had in that movie? No? Anybody? And nobody ever noticed the size of the bag of chips? He's going to Amscray. He's going to skip town without Arnold. Anyway. It was a bigger bag of chips than he was. It was bigger than him, for goodness sakes. Turn around. I already said anyway, and I kept it going. Turn around for the back shot. The almighty back shot. And it's funny. I mean, when the guy from the 70s is beating the guy from today, it is fair. You can say, okay, well, he's beating him. If he was around nowadays, he'd be only better. So he'd be beating him now, too. And Arnold's back. The Christmas tree goes all the way up, but it does not take away from how low his lats are. His lats go down nice and low, and for his time, he had one of the best backs. He really did. There was Sergio Oliva. I mean, that guy's back was thick. But he didn't have that condition of the oak. The arms, too. Oh, Bumstead, what did Matty say about Arnold's arms? Could be few silly. Maybe I'm being a little bit few silly. For his time, Arnold did have a couple of glutes. They probably talked about that back then. Like, my soul, he doesn't even have any fat on his bum. And now look at them. Ooh, I like this, eh? That's the Canadian accent coming out of Chris Bumstead, huh? You guys see when he retired? And you know what? I didn't make any announcements on that because you know what? After Arnold supposedly retired, 75, he came back, made a fool out of every one of us for thinking that he retired. So, bodybuilder, Chris Bumstead's age, retiring on the mic. Not only am I not impressed, but I was already a little bit upset about his gather round, daddy's home announcement. He could have retired then. You know what? That kind of ticked me off. And it should tick you guys off too. Gather round, daddy's home. Hee, nothing, no announcement. Tick, 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 tick. And then he has the announcement to make, but he makes it at the Olympia. Well, there's more people watching me there. Don't get me started on that. His back sure is good though. Isn't it? So that is a little bit upset there at the end, it seemed. Maybe I'm mad that he retired. Maybe I wanted him to stick around for 10 titles. 10 tickles. You tickle somebody 10 times, that's tentacles. Tentacles. Anyway, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he never loses because he has Austrian oak. He grew up in a small town called Graz. My father was the police chief and he was very strict, so it was always an uptight feeling at home, and I could not wait to go to America via Austria to work for Joe Weider, who is an American, via Canada. Isn't that funny? Hit thumbs up on Maximus's video of me, the Austrian oak, versus this puny weakling, Chris Bumstead. Okay, he wasn't too bad, but I still was better in every pose.